Right when you grab it on camera, so you turn it on. Sign here, please. Can you start tomorrow?
All right, everybody all set? Good evening. Welcome to our school board meeting. We will have our call to order here, and I will just mention that Sarah Costain was able to complete her superintendent training, so she will be able to join us for that process. Apparently there was some kind of confusion in the past about these trainings, but the last one was apparently threatened by some kind of email issue, but it was resolved and she was able to complete the training, so she will be able to join us for that. So that's my only note in the call to order. But actually, she will be attending. Hopefully, she's had a small accident apparently and is delayed, but we expect her to arrive at some point. All right, let's rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now we can review our consent agenda items. If anyone would like one removed to discuss separately, now is the time to mention that, perhaps. If not, we will proceed to approving the meeting agenda.
I would offer that motion.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to approve the meeting agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, show of hands in favor. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have an agenda. All right, that brings us to our reports and presentations, beginning with the Hinks Good News presentation. Come on up. Oh, do we have to? Yeah, there.
This one's on.
Hello.
There it goes. Good evening, esteemed members of the Alpena Public Schools School Board, Superintendent, and guests. We are so excited to be here tonight. We, Hinks School, are going to be sharing with you ways that we've been learning and how we know we've been successful using the language teachers call clarity. In our language arts, we are studying the perspective of literature, and our presentation is going to be based off the classic, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." 'Twas the week before break, and all through the schools, our classrooms were buzzing, following all the rules. We came here to show you what we know we can do and share all the learning that's helping us bloom.
Our learning intention for this presentation is we are learning to communicate our accomplishments clearly. When learning begins, we know what to aim for. Our goals are announced right before we open the door, like we are learning to write a strong paragraph, you see, or how to use fractions in our math mystery.
Our second learning intention is we are learning to connect our learning to a fun, familiar theme. We learn about habitats, planets, and space, and how to be good citizens in this place. We want to know why we're working so hard, and when we're successful, our teachers stand on guard. Now for the best part, the success criteria. This is how we know we've met our goal. Our success criteria show us the way how to be winners at the end of the day. If the learning intention is writing, then the success criteria must be bright. Like my paper has 3 details and uses capital letters right.
We check off the boxes we know what we need to make sure a project is a great planted seed. If we're learning to measure, then success criteria will say, I can find the perimeter of a shape today.
The teachers help guide us to be sure and be sound, but we know the target when learning is found. We use it to ask, am I there or close by? That's our achievement to reach up to the sky.
Teachers have clarity and students know how. We all learn much better starting right now. We know what we're learning, we know what to do, and we thank Alpena Public Schools and all of you. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yep.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry
Christmas and a Happy New Year. And to all a good night.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to all of you as well. That's right. And that brings us to our 2025 audit presentation. Chelsea McConnell is here. And come on up.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here to present your fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025 audit. I'm Chelsea McConnell from Straley Lamp and Kranzheim. So tonight we're going to go over your opinions on your audited financial statements, talk about some significant risks during this year's audit, go over the required communication between the auditor and the board and management, touch on some analytics, and discuss the single audit. Your audit is required to be conducted under auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, as well as governmental auditing standards. And one thing that requires is that the auditor is independent of the auditee so that we can remain objective and unbiased throughout the scope of the audit. We also utilize a concept called materiality, and materiality is a calculation the auditor makes. It changes every year. And to put that simply, what materiality really means is, what is significant enough that would impact these financial statements to influence the financial statement users' decisions, or, what is big enough that could cause these to be misleading. And so I am pleased to say that you were issued an unmodified opinion. That is the highest level of opinion you can be issued in an audit, and it means that we do believe these financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. One thing you'll also see in this year's audit opinion is something called an emphasis of matter paragraph, and what that paragraph is it's just something that draws attention to something that is within these financial statements. So this year we implemented a new standard, GASB statement number 101, compensated absences. And so that is really what's being disclosed in that paragraph in the opinion this year. You also have something called required supplementary information within your report. And so what required supplementary information, or RSI, is it's something that's not required under, U.S. generally accepted accounting principles, but it is required under governmental accounting standards. And so it is required to be part of this report. For the RSI that's within this report, I always like to point out, we don't issue an opinion on that because we do only perform limited procedures on the RSI. You also have something called other supplementary information within your report, and that contains, more detailed statements or, combining non-major statements. And so we look at those and we say, okay, are these fairly stated materially in relation to the basic financial statements as a whole? And so again, we don't issue an opinion on that other supplementary information either. So some of the significant risks for this year's audit was management override of control, revenue recognition and reporting with compliance and grants, and then also the internal service fund. So we actually have audit standards that say management override of control and revenue area, they're always going to be significant risk areas because we always have to, as auditors, presume that fraud could exist in those areas. If we have to presume fraud exists in an area, it's automatically a significant risk. And the reason the internal service funds are a significant risk is just because of the complexities and the materiality of those funds. And so, what it means when we have significant risk areas, it just means we have to gather more audit evidence to be able to issue our opinion. We need more maybe better evidence than other areas. So although an area may not be considered a significant risk area or even a high risk area, they do still get substantive testing done during our audit. And so, one thing that we do when we look at that management override of control area is we say, okay, we can't look at every transaction that happens in the year. So we take a sample of transactions. We look at a sample of journal entries, cash receipts, disbursements, payroll, all the different, major areas, and we sample transactions, and then we say, okay, what is the internal controls that should be in place in these areas? We walk through that sample and we say, were those controls followed? If we find a deviation that where those controls maybe weren't followed, then maybe we expand our sample, or we say, is this a systematic issue of the internal control system? And then that's where, you maybe have a deficiency in that internal control system. But I am pleased to say we did not encounter any of those within our sample during the course of our audit. So one thing you have is a loose leaf letter that would not be bound within your report, and this is a required communication between the auditor and those charged with governance, which is you, the board, and management as well. And so I'm just going to go over some key areas of this letter. So this letter will disclose whether there were any new accounting policies that were implemented during this year. And so one of those you'll see is the disclosure of GASB 101 being implemented. So what happened with GASB 101 was GASB said, before, under the old standard, you would look and say, okay, if, say everyone were to quit tomorrow, what would we have to pay them out? That pretty much became that compensated absence liability. Under the new standard, now you have to meet three criteria. One, it's attributable to services that have already been rendered. Two, it accumulates. And three, it's more likely than not to be used or paid out. And so what happened was all of the compensated absences liabilities started to, increase for all governments as they were implementing GASB 101. And that only is, of course, on your full accrual government-wide statements. It's still not recognized within those fund level statements. In addition, there are significant estimates within your report. So there's certain numbers you may be able to know or reconcile at any given day, such as cash. You could know and reconcile exactly what that is. And then there's other numbers that you have to put, assumptions and make sure, they're reasonably estimated in order to comply with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. And so some of those significant estimates for your report are depreciation expense, which of course is based off the estimated useful lives of capital assets, charges to other funds for the self-insurance funds, the pension and OPEB liabilities, and or asset in the case with OPEB now, as we've seen, and then of course the related deferred inflows and outflows of resources. And then this year, that this is a new one, it's compensated absences because of course we saw that increase, and so now due to the materiality and the assumptions that go into that, that's considered a significant estimate as well. One thing that we auditors also require is at the end of the audit, we require management to represent various items that they have maybe, disclosed to us or talked to us about regarding the audit. And so as I said, auditors are very objective and just professional skepticism, and we're skeptics by nature. So we actually write the letter for management and we give it to management, and then we ask them to review and return it to us once it's signed. We did not have any consultations with other auditors, and then at the end of this letter, there's some other matters, which are some recent pronouncements that will be coming down the GASB pipeline next. So the report on internal control. So typically you find this report within that single audit section. So we actually haven't issued the single audit yet, which we'll touch on at the end of this presentation. So it is the last thing bound within your report. This is a required communication under government auditing standards. So there's really 3 different levels of internal control deficiencies you could have. Your lowest level would be an other matter, which means, it's not a significant deficiency or material weakness yet, but we think it should be communicated in writing. Maybe there's a possibility in the future it could become one, or, it's just important enough in that system of internal controls that we feel it needs to be discussed. And then you have your significant deficiencies, which means there's a possibility that that internal control deficiency could lead to a material weakness, but not as likely as a material weakness. And then that highest level is a material weakness, which means it is reasonably possible that that internal control deficiency could lead to a material misstatement. So I am pleased to say, we did not identify any internal control deficiencies to report. But I also always like to point out we don't issue an opinion on that system of internal controls. We look at that system for limited purposes, to assess risks and design and perform our audit. But we're not actually, auditing that system of internal controls. So there could be one that we just didn't identify for our limited scope purposes. But had we would have to report that. So now we're just going to touch on analytics. I'm not going to spend too much time deep diving into these because I know you've all seen the numbers and these are historic. So I'm just going to touch on maybe a little bit about what happened from 24 to 25. So this first slide is the statement of net position governmental activities. It's just a condensed comparative statement. And so here we can see assets increased about 8.8 million as a result of mainly the increase in the OPEB asset and your capital assets. Deferred inflows and outflows, they entirely consist of your pension and OPEB calculations, and so we see those vary every year. Liabilities decreased about $16.8 million, and that primarily was due to a significant decrease in the pension liability this year. We see an increase in current liabilities of about $580,000, and I just wanted to kind of touch on why. And again, that really was due to that implementation of GASB 101 and having those increase overall. But overall net position increased about $12.5 million, which was primarily in that unrestricted net position. So next is the statement of activities for governmental activities, and the same thing, it's just a very condensed version of the statement. So overall revenues increased about 1%, while expenses decreased about 5% from the prior fiscal year. So revenue increased mostly due to property taxes as we continue to see taxable values increase, as well as increases in charges for services. And the largest decrease for expenses was in the instruction function, and that mainly really was just due to the GASB 68 calculation. So when we see that pension liability decrease, it results in a decrease in the expenses, and so that really is what led to that decrease from the prior year. So pension benefits, I know pension and OPEB, they get talked about a lot just because they are some of the most significant numbers on the statements and they're very material. So really, what is the pension benefits? So you're part of, a Michigan Public School employee retirement system. It's a cost-sharing, multiple employer defined benefit plan. And so overall net pension is about $52.6 million. So when I say net, that's taking into account those associated deferred inflows and outflows that I talked about. And so you can see how that's a very significant number. So sometimes I get asked, well, what can we do about that? And really, all you can do is continue to pay that statutorily required contribution. So next we have a summarized governmental fund statement. And just to, peek at what happened in the general fund this year. So overall, the general fund had an increase in assets of about 1.7 million, while liabilities remained relatively stable, increasing slightly, a little under 100,000. So the general fund balance increased by $1.7 million. Yes, by $1.7 million, which exceeded the final budgeted expectation by about $851,000. So I just wanted to point out, I know that sounds like a big number, $851,000, but if you look at that as a percent in relation to the total actual revenues of the general fund, it's only about 1.5%. So, your budget was very, very reasonable. And so both revenues and expenditures came in a little bit under the final budgeted amounts, which is what led to that. The unassigned portion of fund balance increased about $1.7 million. And one important ratio I always like to calculate and look at, just to look at the general fund's health, is the number of days of expenditures in that unassigned fund balance. And so the Government Finance Officers Association, or the GFOA, recommends no less than 60 days for that financial measure. And so your general fund had about 109 days of expenditures and other financing uses in that unassigned fund balance at 6/30/2025, which was an increase of about 20 days from 6/30/2024's ratio. So that just shows your general fund is healthy. Now, the single audit section which is not issued yet, but it will be very soon. I expect you'll get a draft any day. So you probably are aware of what happened with the 2025 compliance supplement this year. So typically, even if that was issued in June, that would be considered late. So we now came into school district audit season. All we had was a 2025 draft compliance supplement to perform our single audits. No one really knew when it was going to come out. Of course, we probably all assumed it would come out earlier than it did. So all the auditors in the state of Michigan went out and started performing single audits based on that draft in hopes that, we weren't going to have to go out and retest anything, that no major programs would change within that engagement. So then the state, it wasn't getting issued. The state finally issued their budget late. And when they issued their budget, they said, okay, well, if the compliance supplement's delayed, you can issue your other report and your single audit will be due 30 days after. So for the first time that I remember ever having to do, we had to pull all the single audits out of the reports, issue this report separately, and then we were going to have to issue the single audit separate. And so November 25th, they finally released that final 2025 compliance supplement, which means, we got a Christmas present, and December 25th, all the single audits are due. And so, we're working on getting those done. But the good news was there weren't changes between the draft and the final, and so we didn't have to come out and retest anything. And so those will be issued and completed soon. But I can tell you, we don't have any findings. We don't have any question costs. We are expecting to issue an unmodified opinion. So everything was very clean with the single audit. With that being said, are there any questions?
This might not be a question maybe more for Dave or Mary, but this is, very objective data auditing. Do we ever have anybody come in and subjectively look at any of the financial stuff to see if we can make any improvements? Like assist Mary or?
Do you want to speak to that? No is the answer. I mean, that's Mary's job, so.
I don't know. I've never, been doing this for a long time, and I've never worked in a district where they had somebody come in and assist the business manager. We're supposed to know what we're doing. We all have degrees in the business office. I have 2 degrees. Our MSBO training, Chief Financial Officer certificate. I clean audits every year except for last year, and last year was a train wreck with Joyce being out and everything else, so there were extenuating circumstances with that one. I clean audits in my previous district.
No, Mary, this is nothing against your job or your training or anything. I'm just asking just another set of eyes. As my profession, the medical profession, sometimes we might refer to someone else or have somebody else take a look at something just to see if there's any other changes or improvements or, I'm just saying as a help to look at these numbers and what we're spending it on.
So what do you think is wrong with that?
Nothing. I'm just saying everything, there's room for improvement. Is there?
That's up to the board. But,
We'll stop there.
Anytime changes come out through MSBO or Gatsby or anywhere else, we follow them. If I have questions, I work with Chelsea. I call her throughout the year. I don't wait until the audit to say, hey, there's always questions. I refer to MSBO, I reach out to Dr. Juan, or, so I guess I don't, when you have clean audits and there aren't issues, you're not overdrawing your checking account, you're not running the district into a deficit, I don't know.
Yeah, I would just say I have not heard of that in my career, of someone coming into a school district and doing that, but that's not to say that we couldn't look at it, but I don't know what that is necessarily.
So when Chelsea was talking about the budget, there's always a variance in the budget. You always have changes throughout the year, you have bills that don't get received, you have things that were ordered that didn't come in before June 30th that you can't charge that for fiscal year because you never received them. So those variances always exist in the budget, and our variances have never been outside of the normal or practical range, and this budget was extremely close with $851,000 out of $54 million. I think we did pretty good.
Under the pension side of things, what is our bill for the pension? Just out of curiosity.
What is your liability at 630?
Yep.
I know net it was about 50 million, so we have 50.2 million is your net pension liability at 630.25. And then, of course, there are related deferred outflows and inflows that go into those. There's also, if you're interested in the pension, if you go back, there's a 10-year RSI schedule that you might be interested in. So that is going to be on page 60 and 61. So that will show from 2015 through 2024 reporting of, where your net pension liability was. And so you can see how it has fluctuated. But so we saw them go up for a couple years, and now we're finally seeing them start to come down. So I hope that we continue to see those decrease and come down.
If we are able, would it be beneficial for us to pay ahead?
So what happens is there's about almost 700 people in this plan. And so even if you were to contribute over your statutorily required contribution, it's kind of going into this pot that everyone is part of. So it doesn't just directly only, like, you paid $2 million and now your pension liability went from 50 to 48 million. It doesn't really work that way.
So it's kind of a Ponzi scheme almost. Everybody's just got to keep kicking in to make sure it stays afloat.
Which hopefully we see that continue to decrease. We did see the OPEB or other post-employment benefits go from a liability to an asset starting with June 30th, 2024. And then we saw that asset continue to increase. So hopefully at a certain point we see the pension become, and what happens when you see that move to an asset is it means the plan became overfunded. And so hopefully the same thing happens to the pension where it is funded enough to the point where that liability is minimal, or maybe you have a little bit of a pension asset at a certain point.
Any other questions for Chelsea? Okay. I guess not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate your
all.
being here.
Yep, I appreciate it too.
Thank you, Mary.
All right. So that brings us to our opportunity for citizens or delegations to address the board. Come on up. Without further ado.
My name is Diane O'Connor, and I live in Alpena. On November 30th, 2 weeks ago now, I sent an email to the school board stating concerns I had about statements board member Monica Dazinski made at the November 24th regular meeting. Since I've had no response to my email, I'll present my concerns this evening. At that regular November meeting, Dr. Rabidow did a debrief on the presentations King Scott did for the community the week prior on reimagining our future. After this debrief, board member Dazinski said she had taken data points from the King Scott slides, entered that information into an AI program, and got back verbatim information that King Scott had in their community presentations. It appeared this board member believed the information she found was created by AI rather than King Scott. In fact, the information AI produced in her search came from a very thorough Alpena news story on the King Scott Community Informational Presentations. The problem here is not so much that this board member doesn't understand how AI works, but rather it looked like it was intended to be a gotcha moment to discredit King Scott and perhaps to embarrass our superintendent by suggesting the works King Scott did could have been accomplished with a 5-minute AI search. This board unanimously voted to hire King Scott for a professional analysis of school board properties and reimagined uses. Board members should be supportive of the work this group is doing rather than trying to undermine trust and confidence in the process. On a positive note, Board member Dzinski concluded her comments by saying that her 5-minute AI search had given her a lot of good ideas. It's important to point out that all those good ideas came, 100% of them actually came from the work King Scott did. So perhaps that is validation that the work they did was worthwhile and inspiring. It seems prudent for this board to issue a correction on the statements this board member made in a public forum, not just because the statements were objectively false, but because it could be damaging to the reputation of King Scott and possibly damaging to the relationship between King Scott and APS. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further public comment, well, we'll proceed with our meeting. Thank you. That brings us to our action items, the first of which is the approval of consent agenda items.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Since nothing was pulled, there won't be any discussion. We'll simply vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Then, having accomplished that, additional business requiring board action. We have the 2025 financial update. And the recommendation would be to approve such update as presented.
I will make a motion to approve the 2025 financial audit as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support on the motion of approving the 2025 financial audit. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next item looks like the consideration of the Community Foundation for Northeast Michigan request for the Grantham Family Board of Education funds distribution.
I move to approve the request to CFNEM for the distribution of $40,000 from the Grantham Family Alpena Board of Education funds for the AHS field upgrade loan.
Support.
All right, very good. We have motion and support. Any further discussion of that motion? Hearing, well, since it does have to do with funds, let's go ahead and do a roll call on that.
Member Fritz?
Aye.
Member Meinhardt?
Aye.
Member Hanson?
Aye.
Member Dzinski?
Aye.
Member MacArthur?
Aye.
Member Lawson?
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. That brings us then to Alpena High School and Thunder Bay Junior High proposed new courses.
I will make a motion to approve the Alpena High School and Thunder Bay Junior High School proposed new courses as presented.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support for the new courses. Any further discussion?
Since I wasn't here last week, where did the funding come from?
The funding for the new courses?
Yeah, because it said, I didn't understand when in the paperwork what that funding source was. If it was different than normal, like something that got approved.
AJ, part of it is, part of it has to do with staffing, so the funding could eventually come out of some other funds, like maybe some of the CTE courses. But it could come out of their general funding, it just depends on where the kid, because of the way that we do, when the students sign up for the courses, that's how we build our master schedule, so it doesn't necessarily mean it would be new. It could be, but it depends on when all the requests are in, that's what we build our staffing for that.
Okay.
But it could come from some additional grant sources, like I said, maybe CTE or more sources.
Okay. It just looked like it was something had come through from the state or something, the way I was reading it, but that's it.
Since we didn't have him come to the microphone, will some of that his explanation be in the minutes? Very good, thank you. Excellent. Okay, any other discussion on the new courses? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Okay, any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Great, thank you. That brings us then to our board strategic plan goals. Oh, good, we've got a handout.
There you go.
Just one apiece. Want to look at them all.
So tonight we're looking at personnel and stewardship. I think on the bottom there, personnel, we are good with by 2030 increase the 1-year retention rate of all new staff to 90%. Developing and implementing a comprehensive multi-year induction and mentorship program, and monitoring at the HR department will provide semi-annual reports to the board detailing retention rates and program feedback. At the top, I think there was, what I'm proposing is we adopt this as it is, but I am waiting to hear back. I talked to Cheryl Cooch from Raymond last week, and she was going to provide us with some examples of organizations that moved their percentiles over a short period of time, a couple of years. So just to say that while we've got the 50th percentile, she felt that was pretty aggressive and that she would go and get some of the data and then share that with us. And so I would recommend adopting the goal the way it is today, but just with the caveat that when she does provide us that information, maybe we revisit it and see what she comes up with. But right now, that goal is an employee engagement goal. By 2030, increase the district's mean engagement score to the 50th percentile or higher. And the baseline data that we were using was 3.76 mean and the 26th percentile. And so I also did reach out to get a proposed contract, which would include 2 Q12 surveys and 2 pulse surveys, which we could spread out over 4 years. And so we would annually review those survey results to track the progress and identify emerging staff needs. On the stewardship side, I took best I could what I think we talked about with the 15% being our goal, and then adding 1% to the policy if the current status allows it. So that goal would be by the end of each fiscal year, the district will maintain an unassigned balance of at least 15% of annual operating expenditures. For every year this target is met, the board will increase the minimum fund balance requirement in the board policy by 1%, progressing from the current 10% to a maximum 15%. And monitoring would come through mid-year budget review and, of course, the annual financial performance and fund balance, similar to what we saw tonight. I would like to have you consider if we want to include in the writing of this goal something to the effect of a caveat to the public, acknowledging how quickly things can, beyond our control, can change. So that if we find ourselves at the end of a year and the financial picture has changed significantly, I would like to be proactive for anyone who might suggest, well, they're just changing it on a whim or anything like that. I think we need to just kind of put it out there that we never know what the state is going to do. We never know what's going to happen financially, and just kind of leave open the option to not to maybe be at that 15%, but not necessarily move the policy up by 1%. For instance, if we're looking at some pretty dismal outlook from the state of Michigan, and we're reading the tea leaves and say that we will probably be in a much worse situation by the end of the next year, I just think the board needs to reserve that right, and just keep reiterating, we are at the mercy of the state as they develop our budget.
Well, it's simply a goal. We're not voting on the policy change until that time occurs, so I think that's kind of what we talked about, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. You know, sometimes people misinterpret the word, the words that we've said, so. I guess as long as every time we talk about this goal, we say, you know, something to this effect, that was my only concern. It is a goal. It's not a policy. And so it's a good target. And then, so that's how I would have that written, as you see there, mid-year budget review. And then we essentially the long-range facility planning goal by 26. So we're implementing that goal. And then, you know, we'd really be addressing deferred maintenance, modernizing. Well, that's the purpose. We'd monitor it through annual progress reports on the different projects, covering the project status, financials tied to it. This then led into our conversation about the wish list items that you have in your packet. And so as we identify projects, we put them on the calendar, then we would monitor the progress of those. So, in the plainest form, the way the goals are presented on this document is what we're recommending, or I think we agreed to, because they're your goals. And then I'll just reiterate those two caveats that subject to conditions beyond our control.
Would you like? Would you think that might be prudent in that sustainability first stewardship sustainability goal? Maybe to say something like that for every year this target is met, and maybe and other financial conditions allow, for example, state funding levels or something like that. The board will increase the minimum. Would everybody like that? The idea of just baking that right into it? Because as you said that, I thought, well, yeah, that could just be folded right in there.
Can't you just say the board will vote to increase the minimum? That way it puts it up to a yes or no?
I like that, keep it simpler.
Without the other caveat language?
Then it leaves it up to the board to discuss it, and if it's within, something we can do, you vote it up. If not, you vote it down. So I don't think you really need to say much more than that, other than we bring it to discussion at that time.
As long as we make it clear why we might vote, against, implementing this goal, as long as somebody remembers to mention that. That I'm fine with that, but
yeah.
I think that I think that's very prudent because you do never know whether or not you're going to be able to carry out your best laid plans, whether all the state mice will line up like they should, or who knows.
So then it would,
go ahead.
I think it would read, by the end of each fiscal year, the district will maintain an unassigned fund balance of at least 15% of annual operating expenditures. For every year this target is met, the board will vote to, just the board will vote or consider a vote to increase the minimum fund.
Vote to increase.
I like the word consider because
Yeah.
that's clearer, I think, as to what's really going on. You're reviewing this information and you'll consider it and then go from there.
Okay. So for every year the target is met, the board will consider a vote to increase the minimum fund balance requirement in board policy by 1%, progressing from the current 10% to a maximum of 15%.
Seeing heads nodding.
Yeah.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
As Emerald would say, bam. I think we've got it. That sounds really good to me.
Bam.
Everybody else is
Considering
okay with that. We'll,
And just to refresh my memory, when we were talking about the board goals for like the listening sessions, student outcomes with our agenda, that was under the family and community partnership.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think we still have work to do to
Yep,
hash
I
that
agree.
out.
I
so.
just wanted to double check.
Yeah, we still have work to do on that one.
Yeah.
Just for my comfort, Dave, for the long-range facility plan, develop and begin implementing a 5-year facility master plan. That's something I believe we discussed, community involvement to see what the priorities were as far as wish list items, as we're calling them.
Yes, yeah. It's the King Scott, some of the bond issues that we've talked about with the president, and just all those different projects.
What about other, I know we've talked about it several times, but something along the lines of the weight room, if that's a community concern, something they want, how would that even be brought up to this if it's outside of King Scott and it's outside of bond?
It's the wish list. So it is on the wish list, and so the board's going to take a look at it and kind of figure out how we potentially get that out to the community. It's one of those projects. And so my thinking was, we have this wish list, and the administrators weighed in with their priorities, the board would weigh in with their priorities, and then we send it out to the community to get their priorities. Take all that information, and then ultimately we make the determination of how we want to move forward.
which isn't to say also that these things couldn't be accomplished sometimes together. If Romeo has his way, we'll have this new field house.
Yes.
So we have some bold visions to consider, and that might affect, even to some degree the funding level. I think I saw the weight room is in there for 600,000. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
But that's just a sort of a guesstimate based on doing that as a standalone item, and if it were, put in together with some other projects or some grand design, it could change. But I think that's the point of that wish list, is it's a discussion that could evolve. But it being there, it makes it a priority.
Yeah. Yep.
I move to accept the goals as presented.
Support.
Or did we have a motion on the floor?
No, we did not.
We do not have a motion, okay.
Which goals?
Which goal?
Is that the strategic plan or stewardship or the personnel goals or stewardship goals or both?
All in, everything right here.
Yep. So the only change that's not on your paper would be in the stewardship. For every year this target is met, the board will consider a vote. The consider a vote isn't on the paper you're looking at.
Will we, in order to make this happen, do we need to vote on the Raymond approval as well?
Well, I think we don't have the contract, the proposed numbers yet, but these are goals. They're not policies. They're not actual decisions. I would say adopt the Raymond goal as written, and then I did tell them to sharpen their pencil and give us a multi-year discount. And the only thing that might change is if they come back and show that it takes more than 4 years to move the amount that we're talking about, and significantly so, we might want to come back and customize that number a bit, but. Because they're goals, I think we can adopt it now. But if you'd rather have the contract, we could certainly go that route too.
For the sake of moving on, let's put it down and adjustment
Okay.
as needed.
So, EJ, that was your motion?
Correct.
And who seconded that? Was it Sarah?
Sarah.
So you have clarified that your motion as presented, you were including the discussion on changing the language in the stewardship goal, correct? And then what else was it? Oh, yes, that you were including both personnel and stewardship development goals together. And Sarah, and when you seconded, was that your understanding
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
Okay, then I think we can dispense with the going back and amending motions as long as everybody understands and is in agreement what the motion was and is. Further comments, since we do have a motion and a second? Any other discussion on those? Okay, then hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion on the two strategic plan goals, raise your hand if you're in support. Okay, great. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So we have personnel, or we have, personnel and stewardship goals. Great. Okay, that's all I have for that section. I'm not missing anything. Yep, she has appeared already. Thank you, Michelle. So yes, new business, human resources staff update, which is in your packet.
Yes. So we have professional staff hired, Sophia Maj, second grade teacher, Jacob Barnaby, elementary music teacher, that's just so you know, a mid-year hire for January 5th. And then Becky Durfee, special education teacher. We have we have support staff hired, Alan Smith as a relief bus driver, Cynthia Ryback as a food service helper, Toby Marsicola as a food service help floater, Shane Miller as an instructional assistant, Ashley Dost as an instructional assistant, and Cheryl Bell Tozer as a bus attendant. And then we have resignation terminations of Nicole Smolinski as a lead custodian, and John Krentzmeyer, sorry about that, and food service helper at Alpena. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions for Michelle? Yeah.
I just move to approve the hires after the completion of proper certifications.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the hiring of the new professional staff after completion of proper certification testing and other HR requirements. We have a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign? All right, motion carried.
If I could, do you
Yeah.
want to come back up and tell us about your weekend up north? Just a quick update, she did early recruiting.
Oh, yeah, it's certainly germane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what he's talking about is I went to Northern Michigan University to do some recruiting this year. They had mock interviews. They had several graduates. So we have actually, how it kind of works is you sit down with a couple different students and you just kind of give them practice for interviewing. But in doing so, we actually met with 8 people. McKenna went with me. She was a Northern grad, so she went to go back and kind of did some recruiting for us as well. But when we got there, we found out of the 8 people we got to meet with, 6 were actually targeting Alpena and wanted to come to Alpena. So that was the good news that I think he wanted me to share. Yeah, so we are doing a great job getting our name out there. So it's a welcoming thing when people want to come to your table, and at one point actually people were actually like trying to fight to get to our table, so it was really exciting. We did actually interview someone today already and gave a job offer, a super great candidate, and a couple others that we're looking at for fall. So
And you did this last year as well.
we did this last year, we did it last fall, and then we did it last spring, and that's how we got all of our hires for this spring. So we are going to be doing some offers, probably some interviews and offers, for starting in the fall. But we're going to start getting recruiting done early and hopefully get some candidates that are really good, top-notch teachers by doing it earlier rather than waiting.
Michelle, do you think if I remember correctly, when we had the board meeting where the new teachers came before the meeting, I feel like there was a couple that were here from Northern,
Yes,
maybe an
there were.
English teacher from the high school. Do you think that they're like kind of recruiting for you at all? Have they said anything?
They
Like
haven't said anything.
Okay.
But on the other hand, I do know that we have a couple student teachers that are teaching right now with us. So maybe they're reporting back. But
Great. I mean, it's
they'll
just
be
nice
spring
if you-
graduates. But either way, we have a good reputation out there right now of being a good place to work for as a teacher. So
Great.
that's
Thank
good. We should share that and we should celebrate it.
Great, thank you, thank you.
Well, that is fantastic. Merry Christmas to us. So thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to charitable gifts, and since unfortunately Sarah has not been able to join us yet, I will ask AJ if he would go ahead and read the charitable gifts list.
Just a second, let me see if there's any. Nope, we're good. Okay, Diana Sharp with the Red Hat of Hubbard Lake gave a generous monetary donation of $200 to support the students of Lincoln Elementary. Hungry Howie's of Alpena generously donated 10 pizzas valued at $86 for Family Literacy Night to support the students of Lincoln Elementary. The First Congregational Church Change for Teens gave a generous monetary donation valued at $500 to support the students of ACES and McKinney Vento. The First Congregational Church Change for Teens gave a generous monetary donation valued at $500 to support the students of ACES and School Success. The following generous donations were made to support the students of Alpena High School for Leadership Food Baskets. Sunrise Veterinary Services donated $50. Northeastern Window and Door donated $250. Cliff Anschutz donated $100. Austin and Julie Gilmet donated $100. Thunder Bay Tree Service donated $100. Real Estate One of Alpena donated $100. Alpena GMC donated $200. Wolverine State Credit Union donated $250. Jenny Poley donated $500 in honor of Steve Jacobson. Okay. I move to accept the gifts listed above with gratitude and thank the donors in writing for the generous gifts.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion support for our gifts. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. We have the motion carries. We have a approved list of gifts, and yeah, certainly a generous community. They seem to turn out every time, so we appreciate that. All right, that brings us to informations and proposals. We have a letter from a community member.
This is from Catherine G.
It looks
It's
like
just a thank you, actually. So
Oh.
it's good news. She was one of the alumni inductees this year for the Hall of Fame. So this is a thank you letter from her. Dear Dr. Rabideau, school board members, and members of the Alumni Hall of Fame Committee, this is to express my deepest gratitude for the tremendous honor of being inducted along with Ryan Sushek and Brett Trelfa into the Alpena High School Alumni Hall of Fame during the Homecoming 2025. I appreciate the entire Alpena Public Schools community and all the staff involved in making the day special, including Romeo Burdage, Lee Fitzpatrick, Jessica Gillard, and Summer Siegler. Their attention to detail was instrumental in making the event memorable for everyone involved. Being chosen for this distinction among more than 42,000 alumni is both humbling and profoundly meaningful. I am truly honored to join such an esteemed group and to be part of a tradition that celebrates the achievements and legacies of Alpena High School graduates. The events of the induction day will remain with me always. From the welcoming lunch and the spirited homecoming assembly to the vibrant parade, I walked and enjoyed handing out bags of candy and the touching induction ceremony at midfield. Each moment was thoughtfully planned and deeply appreciated. The warmth of the welcome, the recognition bestowed, and the meaningful gifts of the Wildcat Journal and the blanket made the day truly exceptional. Though many through the Sioux would prevail in the game, the icing on the cake was the shell-shacking that the Wildcats handed the Blue Devils. Thank you once again for this remarkable honor and for the unforgettable experience. I am sincerely grateful for the generosity, hospitality, and recognition shown by Alpena Public Schools and the Hall of Fame Committee. I appreciate all that you do to cultivate pride and excellence in our school community. Thank you, KP Mahoney.
Didn't we have another letter or two that came in? I think Monica and I were both contacted about letters, and they were going to send them to you.
The about the student issue?
That was one.
Yeah,
The
we're not
failure
allowed to
to
read that
follow
out loud.
mandatory
Okay, so that one
policy.
you can't read because of the personal identifiable information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'll address that in my update.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, maybe we'll have to explain that then to them to make sure they understand it.
Yeah, that one had a whole lot of personally identifiable information. We won't read those. Two, I think you're seeing a pattern of people wanting to go straight to the board versus not going through the proper chain of command. So I would ask that we kind of sit down and put some parameters in. Because, just throwing in that sentence that you want it read at the board meeting, number one, we might not be able to. And number two, we have a right to do our due diligence and make sure that they follow the chain of command before coming to the Board of Education.
Yeah. Well, I would think that they could appear for public comment.
They can.
Like anybody else, but probably it's important for people to understand that personally identifiable information. If they were to say something at the podium, but we can't actually go ahead and read it.
Yeah.
So as a matter of procedure, then okay, I think that's clear.
Well, I think our policy does too say you can't get up and talk about a personnel, a teacher or staff member type of thing, and I think
Yes, if you're going to, right, exactly. Yeah. Okay,
so. Hopefully,
well,
you're able to maybe respond to it because I think
I
that
will.
letter just came to the board. So just that's
yeah, it was just last night, I think.
Yeah.
So yes, I will address that then, and you'll address the generally in your comments in your report. Okay.
In my superintendent update to the board.
Right.
Yeah.
In your update to the board.
Not here at this table.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I understand. Okay. All right then. Then that's it for that. Then we would go to your update and wish list items.
So it's essentially the wish list. Well, I guess as far as the update, 'tis the season. There's a lot of projectile vomiting going around. So just a seasonal warning, wash your hands, and hopefully everyone can get through that before we're off for break there. And just happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone. It's hard to believe it's here already, looking at the second semester. But really, this was going to be a quick conversation about the wish list items that you have. And just to reiterate that process, we've had, so I included a copy, not the original document, Mary, so don't get concerned. But in my evaluation documents, I linked the long-term maintenance spreadsheet. And so you hopefully had a chance to see that there's many projects identified. Those are long-term maintenance and facilities projects. That's separate from these wish list items, which are those nice-to-have wish list enhancement items. So again, all of these different plans will kind of work alongside each other. But what we have here in front of you is a list from each of the principals that didn't necessarily fall into that long-term maintenance plan, but those are nice-to-have things at the buildings. So they then, we did some back and forth and, removing some items from these lists. But ultimately, what you're looking at is, I think it's the second column on the left. There's a number, and that's the principal's prioritization of those items at their building. And so then the idea would be somehow we put that into a manageable list that we can put out to the board and to the community to get feedback on where their priorities lie with each of those projects. We do have people ready to donate to, a number of these projects, and being able to say that this is a high priority for, administrator, board, and community would certainly help those efforts. But then it also helps us as we look at building a longer-term plan of, just say, if something is going to be $3 million, does the board want to set aside a certain amount of money for the next couple of years to fund that project? And if so, then donors can say, okay, the district is going to put some money into this project. That's what they like to hear, because then they're more willing to donate to a project that we don't have a budget for, and they would essentially be funding. So I don't know how in-depth a conversation we want to have right now, since you're seeing this relatively new. But just, these are the wish list items. We would like to get that out to get the community's feedback fairly quickly. I'm thinking January, and then we can take that back and, line it up with everything else we're doing.
I thought it was great to see some of this stuff. I mean, just to know what the buildings need. It was really interesting to go through, and I thought the public would love to see some of these, because I'm sure there's families at some of the buildings that would say, hey, that's important to me too. And we have a very giving community, so I think people would be interested in seeing some of the stuff for sure.
And since my mind only remembers the flagpoles in the weight room, I'll just highlight a few of them. Anything from AHS bathrooms, that's a real exciting one, I know. But band room renovations, auditorium, Wildcat sign on the auditorium building, some ACES renovations, a lot of playground equipment across the district.
A lot of playground equipment.
Scoreboards, and we will be announcing we have a donation for a scoreboard that we'll be sharing soon. Trophy cases, welding lab upgrades. There's a whole variety of items on here. Library updates, sidewalks.
Can you remind me what the color coding is? What's yellow? What is that? Because it's not by.
I don't know that it had any significance.
It's distinct from what ours is called LRM upgrades.
Long range maintenance.
Yeah. So I think that's the distinction, is the long range maintenance, which is a little different classification, I guess, than wish list.
Yeah, so...
Does that hold true throughout the various...
Again, no decisions have been made on these, but I think what these are showing is that some of these can be pulled over into long-range maintenance, like sidewalk and library update, those sorts of things.
Okay.
Do have building administrators shared some of this too, maybe with their PACs? I don't know what, sometimes I felt like when I was on the PAC at Besser, it was helpful to know, right? Like when you're doing a fundraiser, it's easy to share with the families. We're doing a fundraiser to buy, new playground equipment, and then people are, like you said, they're more eager to participate if they know what the money is going for, and not just sitting in a bank account, so.
Yeah, I know that the playground equipment is something that the PACs and my superintendent's PACs have been addressing. Just because it's a need across the whole district, we were hoping to get some, economy of scale on things like that. So there's some items that I do know they have talked about. I don't know if they've talked about them all, but we can certainly... And for my superintendent PAC, I've talked to them about presenting this list to them as well, to get their input on it.
Could some of this stuff, are you done, Anna? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Could some of this stuff be done in-house by our CTE program? I don't know, the one that I'm looking at right now is the trophy case at AHS.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a wood shop project.
Yes.
And even the desks at Sanborn. I'm not sure where to field that question. To you or to
The
Matt?
answer is yes. Certainly CTE can do quite a bit. Because this is just a brainstorming document at this point, we haven't necessarily approached them with any of these projects. But yes, wherever we can do it in-house or with our students.
I guess, the softball, baseball dugouts. I don't know what was envisioned there, but
And so we have a potential donor on that project, and there is a partnership being developed right now where we do some work, materials are donated, labor and material is donated, and those sorts of things, but haven't signed on the dotted line yet.
But even concrete, or the sidewalks that are listed around.
Yeah. Yep. So, and we are, some of these things we will do and cross off the wish list potentially as we work forward, because there's just work that's just ongoing. So this was capturing the list as it is so that we could push it out and get feedback to then start accelerating some of those, projects that people would like, that we're hearing they'd like to donate to.
Dave, can I ask you about the Thunder Bay Junior High? Because actually, this was something I was going to ask about later on, because it got brought up to me about the drop-off restructure, redoing that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I was told today, the staff are amazing out there. They're out there every morning trying to direct traffic, but it's just kind of a mess still. What does that drop-off restructure kind of look like, or what's the ideas, or what the roads, or what are we thinking?
So we are getting a site survey done to see what we can actually do. Anywhere from, and so there's a number of things going on. Have we signed the contract, Mary, for the engineering study?
So, no. We have the survey that has to be done first.
That's what I was looking for, survey. So,
$17,500 for the survey, compared to the first quote of $40,000. So that purchase order is supposed to be going out. Simon gave the information to IDI, and IDI approved the survey plan, so that's the first step. And then they have to decide if it's coming out of the leftover bond money 2 summers from now, or what we're doing with it.
so there's a lot going on, and we're working with IDI right now and Clark because from all of our safe, warm, dry bond work, we have money left over through the savings, and we removed several items from that work because we didn't think we would be able to afford it. So now that they've gone through and done all the work, we now have the ability to go back and do some of those items that are originally on our list. So that's going on. At the same time, the concern about drop-off, pick-off at Thunder Bay has come, it's been to our attention all along, but this might be an opportunity to do some work. Before I get myself in trouble, would we be able to utilize safe, warm, dry bond potentially to do? Yes, we would. Site work at the junior high. Yeah. So it's possible we can make that one of the next summer and the following summer's projects to do some site work at the junior high, but also this safe routes to school that I've been working with the city and township on. If that were to go through, it's possible we could do some site work, not necessarily on our property, but possibly a connector to the bus garage, widening the road in front of the junior high or doing some other things. So that's going on at the same time. The only challenge with that is if we get approved, we'd apply for it this summer, and if we get approved, I think they said the work wouldn't start till 28 at the earliest. So we've got a couple of years in between now and then to deal with it.
Would that be something, though, that the county would help bring in some funds for that? If
Yeah.
it was with the road and everything, not just all on us?
Yeah, yeah. So Safe Routes is the grant program that houses all of this, and then we would need partners to go in on this grant opportunity. So, and they're actually coming in January to talk to the board about everything going on there. So we are looking at, site work at the junior high, but we have to do a survey to know what we can actually is possible, and then see if we can fit it into this next round of safe, warm, dry bond work, or if we can fund it elsewhere. I think that's most of what we got going on right now, but yeah. So it's not on here because that's not a wish. I mean, it's a wish list, but it's possibly a long-term maintenance or safe, warm, dry.
Does anybody know if intergovernmental roads still meets? It's a county and township committee that used to coordinate with state of Michigan, and talk about various. We were talking about this 12 years ago. How to get that connector to 32 done somehow, and nobody seemed to really know how that was going to work. I also am wondering if they would be able to rub their purses together and come up with some support for us in that. But I imagine all of these players, the township, county, state of Michigan, will all be at the table for these discussions.
I've talked with most of those entities.
Yeah. Okay, good.
None of them are willing to commit anything yet because we're just going through that. For the purpose of the Safe Routes to School grant. They're still working on the extension, and I think there's more to that project. I don't know, but it may not just be an extension, because it hasn't been finalized yet. I think that's about it. But I've been meeting with, again, the commission, the county, the city, township, as a part of conversations around the Safe Routes to School grant.
Do we have any more thoughts on are we shooting for anything in particular with regard to alleviating the drop-off traffic and problems, or are we just looking for ideas at this point?
Yeah, well, that's part of the Safe Routes to School. They come in and do an actual study.
Yeah.
But I guess the great thing about that is we would apply for I think 6 schools, but the money you receive for each school can be used in a 2-mile radius of that school. Okay. So when you look at the city, I haven't done the math, but I think that's going to pretty much cover the city. So you might have improvements right in front of a school building, but you also, like I think we talked last time about Lincoln, it might extend out into the community a little bit more, fixing sidewalks, cross paths, and things like that. Okay. And since it's a 2-mile radius, that could be pretty beneficial. But I forgot what your question was.
Well, no, you basically answered it.
Okay.
I think I was looking to see if we had any, concrete ideas on what we might actually try to accomplish. But I think what you're saying is we're looking to have a survey done to find out what those possibilities might be, and maybe to try to guess, what they're going to come up with is not fruitful at this moment.
Yeah, I've talked to Katie Lee's obviously studied this pretty thoroughly, and she's out there, probably every day with her yellow jacket on and directing traffic. So she shared a lot of good ideas. And so, basically trying to get traffic off of 3rd as much as possible and into and ease the flow. But we just don't know if it's physically possible to do some of the things that we've been talking about.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So with the wish list, I would ask for your kind of thoughts on, you see it's a lengthy document, and we do have some cleaning up of how do we put that list out to the community. We want everyone's voice, but I think we want to customize it to the projects and the community. So if it's Wilson's projects, then we want to get as much of Wilson's community as possible weighing in on it. And so we're just kind of stuck right now on what that format might look like to get it out there. But if we can kind of just get some ideas, and then we could push it out to the community sometime in January, and then we'd have that information.
Could we, for example, put those school-specific lists in a newsletter, or even something that would go home with the kids? That would be a beginning.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Okay. Other thoughts from the board?
Is board comment time? Or
We're still talking a little bit about disseminating the wish list information. I just thought I'd see if there were any further comments about that. Hearing none, then yes, let's go ahead to information or questions from board members.
Sure.
Assuming you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like you were.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment, I guess. I know with the board, sometimes it appears, let me back up a second. A lot of our time is tied up with policies and budgets and kind of the dry stuff, if you will. However, with this being Christmas, I want to make sure that, coming from myself, I'm truly grateful for the staff of the school district, the teachers, the IAs, the cafeteria workers, everyone, in the phenomenal work they do. You know, I had the opportunity to go to Wilson's Christmas program this past week and watch my kids. The work that the teachers and everybody puts in on a daily basis is absolutely amazing. And so I know sometimes we get a little bogged down, but I want to extend my thanks to everyone that works in the district, and Merry Christmas.
It just occurred to me, I'd like to publicly thank Summer for putting together these baskets and the cards for the board. Thank you very much. And apparently Dave had a hand in it as well, so thank you as well. You may or may not have had much involvement, but no, we appreciate that very much, so thank you.
There's a bit too much laughing out there.
I just have a quick comment. It's just an observation. When I was watching the community involvement presentation at the Wildcat Den, I had a real hard time hearing some of the questions. So my suggestion would be is that we try to get microphones the next time we do something like that.
Yeah.
Because I know, I would have been present, but I wasn't. But I just would like to have seen, microphones, because I was really trying to hear everything that was going on there. And the second thing is, I know that there was a lot of, I want to say blowback because of the presentation. It's just a suggestion and it's just an observation. I was wondering, when this was presented to us at the board meeting in November, was that and that was the first time that it was presented to us, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering if maybe it could have been also presented to the principals, so there wouldn't have been so much of a shock value, just to ease it in. That's just a suggestion.
Actually, thank you for mentioning that meeting. I did have some comments from people about not being able to read some of the information or find it online, because I think some people wanted to dig. So if there was any way to streamline how that is found online, apparently
Okay.
it's a little difficult for people to dig and find it, I guess, or maybe they could be having maybe they're having access issues with opening certain kinds of documents. I don't know how some of this works, but I did have a comment along those lines.
Okay.
But I think people appreciated that the event took place and that the information is there. So I thought that was good.
I guess if we're going to talk about that, is another thought too, and I was just kind of reflecting back to when we did the initial and the secondary Safe Forum Drive. I think something that really helped with that is that we brought in the community initially versus like bringing in the community kind of as they presented, even if they were just like hypothetical ideas or suggestions. I feel like the people that came were probably more Hanks, Lincoln families, people who were directly impacted versus having a conversation with, bringing in the community as in whole. And I think that's part of the reason the Safe Forum Drive passed the second time is there was so many people that came to our community meetings that there was a great buy-in, and they were a lot of community leaders, so they went back out and would spread the news, spread information about it versus, kind of a secondary shock and awe type of approach, I guess, that it'd be nice to sit down more as a, like, I don't know if it's possible to kind of steer back that way a little bit now that they have, some feedback, but just, a brainstorm session versus an afterthought, I guess. So I think if we can get community buy-in kind of along the same as our strategic plan, it'll be a little helpful, so.
So that is the plan. They are coming back to meet with admin and, portions of the board in January to talk about the feedback. We do have 231 responses on our survey. We do have 4 board responses, so if whoever has not responded would do so, that would be helpful. But they're watching the feedback. The intent is to get the community's feedback and then adjust, the scenarios. Yes, we just felt that if we had sat down and said, we don't have to do anything, what do you think we should do? We probably would have walked away with too many ideas to even know where to start. So I hear you, and clearly if you talk about touching buildings and programs and all of that, people are going to react. But I think you'll see that moment has passed and people are now seeing it for what it is, and we're getting some really good feedback. But the plan has always been to put out scenarios, get community feedback, and adjust those scenarios and present them back out to the community. And the great news is we don't have to adopt any of it. There's nothing written in stone. It's just we're gathering, brainstorming for the day when we do have to make a decision, and hopefully plan appropriately so that day is as far down the road as possible.
Anybody else? If not, then we do need to move to a closed session, and I'm wondering if anybody would like a break, any board members, before we go into that. So where is our closed session?
We're going to do it in here.
We're going to do it in here?
Apologize to anyone who's...
Can they sit in the hallway instead of being outside in the cold? Or
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how many chairs are out there, but...
Yeah. Yes, we will, after the closed session, we will have board action on the discussion. So if you're interested, we will be conducting a little business after that. Okay, well, let's do this then. Let's have our quick.
Don't we need a motion to move into closed session?
We do. I'm wondering, though, whether or not we should do a quick break. So maybe I could just declare a recess for, a quick 5 minutes, and then at which point we would come back. Okay, great. So we will recess for about 5 minutes, give people a break, and then we'll come back and have that motion on the close. Are we back? Okay, so we're back from our recess, and to the point where I am willing to entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I will make a motion to meet in a closed session under Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act to consider the quarterly formal evaluation of the superintendent.
Support.
Okay, got a couple of support. All right, very good. And so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. It might not be debatable. Doesn't look like there's any. So let's go ahead with a roll call for that.
Member Meinhardt?
Aye.
Member Jazinski?
Aye.
Member Hanson?
Aye.
Member MacArthur?
Aye.
Member Fritz?
Aye.
Member Lawson?
Aye. All right, motion carried. We are in closed session, so that door can get closed, and we'll power down our system here. Thank you. Everybody, anybody who would be interested in making a motion, understand what the motion will look like?
This just says motion to accept the evaluation of Superintendent Dr. Dave Radford. Do you want the specific,
As effective. Yes, that does need to be in there. Yep, yep. I want to make sure we come out and know what we're doing. No. Okay. That's for these. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Okay, then, do we, wait, I think we need a roll call coming out of this? No. I don't think so, just go in. All right, then, all in favor of returning to open session, raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. All right. Back in open session.
White was almost a class A at the point that they still had Procter and Gamble at that point still.
Somebody out there.
I think, did they leave? Were they sitting down by your office, or did they leave?
They left.
Oh, they left. Okay, I thought they were just going on. Smart people.
Probably don't need to check outside. Nobody out there.
Everyone can watch online.
Just on the odd chance that somebody's sitting in a vehicle maybe.
Here, I'd almost been in my house.
Know how it's going.
Let's get out of here.
Hopefully that wasn't breakable.
It looks clear. It's clear down there, huh? And we're back live? Okay, great. So we have returned to open session. And would anybody like to make a motion on the evaluation?
Oh, am I doing it?
Yeah, I thought Anna had it.
Oh, okay. I will make a motion to accept the evaluation of Superintendent Dr. David Rabideau as effective.
Support.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and support on the evaluation. Does anybody have any discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none, then, all in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Got it.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, you're right.
Roll
There is a
call.
roll call. Yes, please, let's proceed that way. Sorry.
Member Dzinski?
Aye.
Member Hanson?
All right.
Member MacArthur?
Aye.
Member Fritz?
Aye.
Member Meinhardt?
Aye.
Member Lawson?
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. That brings us then to advanced planning. We've got our January 12th workshop, January 26th regular meeting, and more activities in February. And with that, we may adjourn. Thank you all very much.